I just felt like deep in my gut, if I allowed jealousy or pride or position to enter into our work relationship, that I would miss out on some really awesome opportunities because it would sour and poison like the good thing that we had going. And so I spent a lot of time working through that and asking myself really hard questions about what triggers this in me? Why is it? How can I be genuinely showing up, be able to be true about how I feel and not be lying about, oh, I'm happy for you. No, I'm not.
Wouldn't it be nice if your art business loved you back? Hi, I'm Stacie Bloomfield. After years of trial and error and late night doodling, I went from being a coffee shop manager to running a vibrant 7-figure art business that I love. And now I'm on a mission to help more artists create an art business that they love too. So I invite you to find a cozy spot, pull out your favorite sketchbook, and listen in. It's never too late to chase your creative dreams. Welcome to the Art Plus Audience podcast. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Art Plus Audience podcast. It's a podcast where I want to help teach creatives all over the world how to build an art business that loves them back. And actually, today's a special episode for 2 reasons. One, this is season 1 finale episode. I decided that this podcast is going to have seasons so that I can take little breaks to put things down while I'm picking up new projects. So I'll be back in a few months with brand new episodes with new guests, new insights, new lessons learned. So I'm really excited to have you here for episode 20. And this is also extra special because our guest today is someone I like a lot. It is my sister, Angie Classen. A lot of you don't know this because you all see my face for Gingiber and for Learn with Stacie Bloomfield, but I don't run all of these things alone. People are always asking me, how are you balancing everything? And I have a team. And the person on my team who I depend on the most is Angie. So Angie, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Angie is my big sister. She's 4 years older than me. She's known me my whole life. But I will say that most people are shocked when they hear that we work with each other. When we were younger, did you ever imagine a future where both of our careers would be working with each other?
Never even crossed my mind that something like that could happen.
Me either. I think, first of all, because the idea of family working together is typically like, everyone's like, no, don't do it. And so I think that we always were just thinking that we'd have 2 separate independent careers because we actually have really different interests, I'd say. But I think that we accidentally were perfectly primed for what we're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. It is funny when you think about it.
Yeah. So our lives have been just literally steps apart from each other. We both have 2 girls and a boy in that order. And I had a baby that was a little bit older than Angie's. And whenever she started working with me, she was in that transition that so many people are in where they're like, I can't work full time. I want to be available for my child. And I think you and I were talking one morning about this. And I think I just blurted out, why don't you do some part-time work for me? I'm a disaster.
Yeah. So I remember being like drowning in my personal life. It was right after I had my second child, Noelle,
Right.
who just turned 12. And she was getting sick every other week, spiking a high fever. And it was like crazy. I was having to leave work all the time to take her home. And I remember just being like at my wit's end and I was like bawling. I can't keep working and then my kid's sick all the time. What do I do? And that was, I think, what ended up leading to you being like, here's an opportunity. One thing I'll say that I really love about you, and you were one of the first people to do this, like you were never afraid to ask for help or to invite other people into your space. And that is something I think is really rare and unique because we see artists all the time. Stacie and I work together with a mastermind, and all the time there are women who it takes a long time for them to be willing to let go of certain parts of their business and invite other experts in to help. And you were so quick to be like, you just said, I'm a disaster, but like you weren't, but the organization was like not your strong suit at that time. But it's funny because like I was strong in like organizational things in general. And I remember this was so funny to me. You're like, well, I have all these people who I've sent wholesale orders to. And I was like, okay, where's the list? And you're like, I don't have
a list. It's in my head.
I was like, how do we know who we've mailed to? And you're like, I don't know. It's in here somewhere. And
Yeah.
that was like Really funny.
No, it was. Okay, before my third baby, my recall was really good. And it was weird. Like I could recall all the information that we needed, but I didn't write it down. And after I had Dexter, literally my brain just stopped being able to do this. And it was
Uh-huh.
actually for the best that we'd already started getting organized because now if I don't write it down, it doesn't exist. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. I will forget. But yeah, Angie came in. And first of all, I'll say that I trust Angie with my life in the life of my children. That's how much I trust her. And I don't trust everyone that way. Angie's one of the few people who 100% I know she has my back and my best interest at heart, and she knows the same for me with her. And neither one of us, I feel, are seeking our own best interest whenever it comes to our relationship with each other and also how we treat each other at work.
Mm-hmm.
Because it felt risky at first. We made each other a deal in the beginning, and we've had to reassess this several times, like kind of
Yeah.
organically. But we made a joking deal in the beginning, like, all right, and if it doesn't work, you got to let me know, and vice versa. We got to be completely honest with each other, not be afraid of that, because the last thing we want is for our relationship to sour.
I think one of the things that's really this whole process has taught me in our relationship and in working together, and I think it like could resonate with people listening, is like it's so easy sometimes to come up against hard things in relationship, and the tendency is to just run away or avoid the conflict or not push through. And there were plenty of times in the past decade plus when we had opportunities to say, we're going to push through this and get better, or we're going to walk away and go our separate ways and just let it lie. And it's not that we said that overtly, but I know there were very difficult seasons. And what this has taught me is that it was always worth it to push through for the people you love
Yeah.
and people you care about. And so I think that like your strength of being like, no, we're going to dig in has been like really helpful for me personally.
So Angie and I problem solve in some ways we're exactly the same and in other ways we're different. And me being the person who likes to move really fast and I can make decisions very quickly. But something that Angie taught me because we do process things differently is there's a way to methodically like assess things and make sure that we're using data as the reason why we're making our decisions. And some things need to go slower. And that's not a bad thing. You're not missing an opportunity doing that. So, like, you have taught me how to actually be better with other people because I was young when I started Gingiber. And sometimes when you are assertive, you can think that you're right all the time. And I have worked the entire time that we've worked with each other to be conscious of that because of yourself. Like people act like they don't know, but we know our flaws and we know the things that we tend to get ruffled about. And Angie is like, I could never imagine my life without
Mhm.
you in it in some capacity. And the last thing I would ever want to do is let my own pride get in the way of being able to listen to you and your point of view, which is I value your opinion now, especially in the
Mhm.
business, because you went from just joining me in something that I had started for a couple of years by myself to then managing wholesale to then I guess 2020 or maybe 2021 I launched into education and Angie was already working for me kind of full time at that point, but she's always been remote. Doesn't live in the same town as me. She lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And education was really starting to take off. And I was really struggling to balance it all. And in my head, I knew I needed to hire someone to help me manage the product side. And some business advisor had been like, it needs to be someone new, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know why, but I was at a stoplight and all of a sudden it dawned on me. I was like, Angie should just be the person to do this. It doesn't need to be a third party. Angie knows this business inside and out. And the only reason I wouldn't be making her that role was because some business advisor had been like, never have it be a family member whenever it comes to like authority in your business because like their interests will become like the most important thing. And when you founded something, you don't want to share those things. And this is where I think I do a good job is sometimes I will buck what standard advice is and just do what I know in my gut. And I was like, I think it should be Angie. And I like called her immediately. What did you think whenever I asked you to come on to actually run the product side of the business for me?
I was like instantly excited, but also nervous because I knew like I had an inkling at the time of how intense it was going to be and like all that it entailed. And what was like tricky is like, obviously I have no experience in running a product-based business other than the on-the-job stuff that I've learned along the way. I would say like one thing that's true about you and me as well is we're both learners, we're both problem solvers, and anytime we come up against a challenge, I'm confident, you're confident that we can figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
We can either find somebody who knows more than us who can teach us, or we can resource ourselves. I wasn't doubtful about my ability, but I was nervous about the amount of time and could I do it and what was the learning curve going to be like. But honestly, I was just like, it made total sense because I had been holding myself back for a long time because I was trying to go, okay, no, my role is this. And so I would jump in and I do this and I'd be like, but that's not my job, but oh, I know how to do it real quick. And I think that by releasing me, it actually created opportunity for me to be a better version of myself, to bring more to the company than I was before, and to not feel like I was having to hold back.
Since I am like the founder of Gingiber and I'm the face everyone knows, I also think even whenever you stepped into that role with way more freedom to be like, bring all your giftings and talents to our company, I still think you held yourself back a little bit because you never wanted to step on my toes and take too much credit and take anything away from me.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't ask you to do that. That's something that you did on your own. But I always want to shine a light on the people who are like making things happen. And I think that for a while you were like overly complimenting me on things with the team, which I appreciate, but like almost making yourself a little bit smaller to make me seem like brighter. And I never wanted to ever dim, like, for lack of a better word, your light to make mine shine brighter. And I think that's been one of the more recent things that you and I, as the business has grown, it's not a secret. Like Gingiber's like 7-figure product-based business. Angie's a huge reason why we have scaled that quickly. She's just been phenomenal. The more her fingers have touched things, the more efficiently they have run and the better our data has been.
Yeah, I remember like a particular season. It was around Thanksgiving many years ago. And we hadn't moved into this new like level of partnership yet, but I just felt like deep in my gut, if I allowed jealousy or pride or position to enter into our work relationship, that I would miss out on some really awesome opportunities because it would sour and poison like the good thing that we had going. And so I spent a lot of time working through that and asking myself really hard questions about what triggers this in me, why is it, what would this mean, how can I be genuinely showing up with my sister and with my work and be able to be true about how I feel and not be lying about, oh, I'm happy for you. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
And for me, what my conclusion was like, I want to be 100%. I don't want to look for any like glory or credit for myself. I want to elevate the people around me and in a real way, not in a fake way, but like in a true way. And that kind of like the combat to like jealousy or like subversiveness is to be like overtly complimentary of the truth. Shine a light on the truth and it instantly gets rid of the lie.
Yeah.
So that's been like my approach for a long time. It wasn't to say, oh, I'm not great, but it's truly when you just shine a light on the good happening and the truth happening in the people around you, it is more rewarding than spending tons of time focusing on yourself. And that's, at least for me, that's how I approach like all of my life. It's how I approach my marriage. It's how I approach a lot of relationships. And so I find when I'm self-focused and worried about myself, usually there's something sour going on beneath the surface.
Everyone should listen to that because I think especially in a creative industry where we're all working online and we see each other's work and social media can portray life one way, like it's very easy to get caught in that trap. I know I've been there in different times of my life, and it's wasted energy to put energy into even the tiniest bit of resentfulness or jealousy. It's a bit of a poison. It keeps you from being focused on like the good that's right in front of you. And I've definitely, everyone else have struggled with that in my life too. And I think that what's really beautiful is that we're 12 years into working with each other. We have no intention of stopping anytime soon. And our parents are just so proud of us. They love that we have this really close relationship. It has been intentional on our parts to make this work.
Mhm.
But what's bananas is like we complement each other so beautifully.
Yeah. One thing that is so true about Stacie, if you've ever met her, is she's just like a creative force and she's an idea factory. What really works well in our relationship is Stacie will oftentimes be like, let's do it. We're going to do it right now. And she'll make it happen. And then my strength is like coming in behind and being like, okay, so then how do we make it work day in and day out? And so it's, if I didn't have her pushing me forward into some of the decisions, I would probably take so long to deliberate over them that it would never happen. And sometimes if she were to keep starting new things, there'd be no one there to come and like work
Yeah.
out the day to day. And so I think that's where we complement each other is we really push each other. I think we also view the world differently, but similarly enough to where we have similar values, we have
Yeah.
similar motivations. So it's not like we're sitting here on opposite sides of something, like having to pull back and forth. It's like we're heading in the same direction, maybe coming at it from different angles.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. You've told me before, I take a lot of risks and I'm willing to take a lot of risks that other people wouldn't be able to do. And I take really big swings. And that's often why, like, when people ask, like, how have you been able to swing from thing to thing? It's scary and risky. But whenever you have a solid support system behind you, Angie's never going to let me make a boneheaded move. Will listen to her enough that if she is like, sister, this is a very bad idea. The only times I haven't listened to her, honestly, it's been like regretful. And something else that I've learned to do is sometimes I will have a big idea and I know it's the right thing, but then I will end it at the end and be like, and I know that you're going to need a couple days to wrap your head around this idea and get your questions together about it. So let's talk again next week. And that's something I feel like I've started doing in the past 2 years, especially
Yeah.
because I'm always trying to work on myself and my relationships. Angie and I are always like maybe chronically so self improvers. But when I look back at our childhood, it's interesting because you're brought up at a time when, depending on where you're at, like the idea of empowering young girls to have careers and to not go just this one route. Which there's nothing wrong with that route. Like our mom was a stay-at-home mom and did a great job with us. But like our dad never looked at us as if we were just like these frail little girls. He pushed us. He's like, you can be the absolute best. He believed in us more than any other human in the probably the whole world has ever believed in someone. And when you grow up with that kind of encouragement,
Oh yeah.
what's the thing that we always say in our heads, Angie?
You're
You're
a
a
winner.
winner.
You're a winner.
You're a winner. That's just what our dad has said to us our whole lives. And so maybe when it comes to like why Angie and I are wired a certain way, it just goes to show you like the way you talk to your children and the way you empower them. Like we have our different personalities for sure, but it makes a huge difference. And so thanks, Dad. It's just so joyful to get to love the work that you do and to get to do it with one of your favorite people in the entire world.
Yeah.
And I would say we are infinitely closer now than we were when we were younger.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I,
Even than we were 5 years ago, there's just been a huge shift for both of us. It's probably age and the stage we're at in life. But I do remember what's been really cool and such a like juxtaposition of like our ages is the fact that you had children before me. And so every time I would get to a different phase of life where I'd be like hitting a wall, like Stacie would have just hit that wall like a year and a half before, or when she would get to a point where like suddenly she's got more free time because her youngest was older, she'd like just hang on, like you're almost there. And I think that's been like a big shift is we've connected on motherhood and life stuff in such a significant way. And so it's just made it really helpful, really encouraging, and nice to know that, yeah, like I'm going to be there.
and another thing is we make space for each other real good. I don't even know how to explain it, but when someone is going through a hard season or patch or whatever it is, the other person has no problem making space for that and not making it about themselves and not forcing someone to go through something faster. And so she's been that for me a lot because honestly, growing the business as much as it has since 2020 has taken a lot out of me. I don't regret any of it, but there have been some really low seasons for me. And it's not just that I have an amazing person in Angie to help fill in gaps for me at work, but it's that I have this amazing person, Angie, as one of my closest confidants and friends who
Mhm.
sees that and has been patient with me when I was so annoyed with myself for not being able to snap myself out of it. And then I think vice versa too. Angie's a bit more stable than I am, I would say, most of the time. But it's been for both of us, right?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, definitely. I think I'm just more private about it, and that's just my personality. That doesn't mean that I haven't had significantly difficult times that you've like completely been there for me, like during. And yeah, it's been really helpful. And then I think something else is that it does flow out into like how you and I manage the separate teams that we manage because we don't do it alone either. There's tons of people who are they're part-time, full-time capacity who we're constantly trying to get ourselves out of the way of so that they can thrive and they can do their work and they can be better and empowering other women. It's really cool because we have like, all women in
Yeah.
our company, which is really cool. And at a time, there was a season where I was able to hire a lot of like mothers, and that was really meant a lot to me because for me, like this provided the ability for me to be with my kids and work remotely, which I know is like not the case for a lot of people. So we've had a lot of opportunity there, and I really enjoy seeing other people grow in their skill sets.
I do too. I think what's so funny to me is like when I look at Angie, I always see my big sister, and Angie's so good with people. Angie's always been just like this amazing person to talk to, connects with people. She's amazing at hiring people, seeing people's giftings and developing them. That's one of her things that I've admired watching the most. And I like want to be as good as her when it comes to those things because I would say that I'm like any maybe creative who I would much rather be doing the creative work than the administrative work, even though I'm good at it, even though I'm really good at business. When I think about who do I want to emulate whenever it comes to running a team or hiring or this or that, like it's Angie. And I mean it. And that doesn't mean it's not hard. That doesn't mean you ever can feel perfect at the job you do, but like it matters. So Angie's really brought a lot of that to Gingiber. Also, the studio was very messy before Angie joined the team. Do you remember how messy it was?
I do. I remember coming in and being like, what?
What?
What is happening? We spent that one day just reorganizing the whole studio. And I was just like aghast because I was like, how do you even function in this space? Oh my gosh. And
Organized chaos, just
no,
chaos.
but now we have Taylor on our team, and
Taylor.
she is so good. She's taken it to the next level. And I think that's actually a great principle we should all lean into, which is like a cringy phrase now, I'm sure. But one of those principles we should really think about is hiring people who are better than you at the thing that you do. Now, I actually don't feel like the most skilled person on the team in many areas. I feel like we have actually hired people who are better than us in so many areas that it's takes so much pressure off of you when you feel like you have to be the sole best at everything. That's like such a lie that gets into small business owners is I have to be the best this and that and the other, which is really one, it's prideful, and two, it's just unrealistic, and it's a
Yeah.
burden that no one can carry.
And I think that maybe it's going to sound like I'm tooting my horn, but I'm not meaning to. But okay, I found a gingerbread. It was 100% my art for all of the time until about 2023, was it? 2023 or 2022?
2022.
2022.
Yep,
And
2022.
something that I've gotten good at is seeing a runway for if I want to get to there, I've got to take care of this and this over here so that I have the space and the bandwidth to take care of what needs to. So a lot of people probably think it's strange that like I have hired a full-time illustrator to work under Gingiber. Her name's Rebecca. She's very talented. A
Mhm.
lot of the artwork that we took to market this year was art that she created for the tea towel. Some of mine was there, but in full honesty, like she has done a phenomenal job with the tea towel designs, just really taking direction and finding the way to make it feel gingerbread, but also even better in many ways. And that's not to diss myself. She does flowers so beautifully. It's one of the things that even before she worked for us, when I followed her online, I was like, her flowers, they're just romantic and beautiful. Like that, she is a part of what's making Gingiber continue to grow. To be the creative, to make room for someone else's creativity, I think for a lot of people would be really hard. And
Yeah.
I think that once I'm ready to do something, I'm just ready. And that's a privilege to be able to hire someone to do that. But also, it's made space for her talents. It's made space for me to explore other things and giftings that I have that whenever I was only making art, I couldn't do. Even if you're great at what you do, maybe
Mhm.
there's a time in your business when even if you could keep doing it yourself, and even if you want to, you need to make space for other people to come in and shine and
Absolutely.
to bring something to the table that you never would have thought, because that's what makes us better.
Yeah.
And I'm just so proud of what Gingiber has become. And that's because of many hands. But I think I'm even more proud of the relationship you and I have, Angie. I am so grateful
Mhm.
that this is honest to goodness. What you're seeing here is like who we are.
Yeah. What else is cool? And just to encourage people, because not everybody does have a Stacie or an Angie in their life. That's actually yesterday, I was doing an onboarding call for the mastermind. And I was saying, some of you all are living in are in communities where nobody even knows what Shopify is. Nobody's even heard of what you do. And it might feel really lonely. And I was like reminding these ladies, that's why we're here. And that's why we have a creative community. And that's why we have a mastermind. And that's why like this podcast exists. It's because so many creative people are just, they feel like they're on an island
Yeah.
by themselves, trying to bring their vision to life. And you actually don't have to do it alone, because that's what we're here for. That's what this community is here for. Yesterday, we were talking about this. I think a lot of the reason why our mastermind feels the way it does is because of the way that we are together, the way
Yeah.
that we approach business, the way that we approach being warm, open, and supportive of each other. That translates into what we do. And I think that translates into the entire community of all of the education stuff that you put out there in the podcast and all the things. And so I think that is just a real testimony. It's not that way everywhere. It's not that way in other business groups and other creative communities. Sometimes it's competitive, sometimes it's cutthroat, sometimes it's just cold. Yeah. And so we all need pace setters in our worlds, in our business, in our lives, who are going a little ahead of us and a little behind us, who we can stay on track with. And I think that's like what you get whenever you're in a community like this.
Yep. And sometimes your pace setter is your sister. Sometimes it's someone you wish was your sister. But
Yeah.
this is why we get to keep doing what we do, is because we keep trying to create space for other people to experience like little bits of joy like this. It's a real treat to get to run Gingiber with Angie. And we have so many other dreams and so many other things we want to see happen. And so we're just getting started in many ways
Yep.
until we're old and gray. Angie, thank you so much
Yeah.
for being here and being here for the finale of season 1. And gosh, I'm just so grateful for you. And I'm grateful for this podcast. And it's been such a fun surprise to put this out into the world this year and to see the positive reception, to see it be like a top 10 design podcast on Apple. Like I didn't expect that. And I just want to encourage people, even though we're wrapping up this season and I'm making space for some other things for a few months. Sometimes the thing that you want to do, like we overthink it, we overcomplicate it. Even though I'm someone who's like a usual, I'm just going to make it happen and go. When it came to this podcast, I procrastinated. I made every excuse why it couldn't happen. And then finally, I just told my team, I'm like, we just have to put it out, even if it's not perfect, even if it's a little rough around the edges, we just have to make it happen. And we didn't put a lot of pressure on it. And it has just bloomed into
Mhm.
something that has given me a lot of personal joy. And
Mhm.
thank you for being a part of it, everybody. So, with that, I'll see you for season 2 in a few months of the Art Plus Audience podcast. Angie, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye, everybody. Hey there, artists and creatives. Do you have burning questions about growing your art business, building your audience, selling your products, or navigating this creative life? Well, now you can call in and ask me directly. we've set up a dedicated Art Plus Audience podcast hotline just for you. Simply call 479-966-9561. Leave your question, and I'll be answering select questions on future episodes. So whether you're curious about marketing your art, building your brand, licensing your portfolio, or anything in between, I'd love to hear from you. That number again is 479-966-9561. I can't wait to hear what you're wondering about and dive into these topics on the show. Let's make this a conversation. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hey, could you do me a favor? Could you subscribe to this podcast and then share it with one of your best art friends? I'd really appreciate it. And then head on over to Instagram and follow me at the Leverage Your Art account, and you can keep up with all of our future episodes. Thank you so much for your support. It means everything to have you here listening and learning. Bye.